right. Hey, I just saw the fireworks tonight. It was pretty spectacular. Oh. And I have to say, this has to be the most complimented first day I've ever had on a hat. I have to show you this step by step because this is so exciting. I have taken this out, the paper, and look at that. Be that as it may, and I would say Boston Scally, you should totally release a silver edition of this, just like you did with the Peaky Blinders hat. The Whigs were arguing for parliamentary powers over monarchical powers, which is pretty close to us. What carried those men was not glory, it was grit. So that right there, I think, is kind of some rich history, and I love that Boston Scally made a hat that makes you think. I love the way that they incorporated red. It's right there. You know, real quick, this is the Americana. It is made in the US because that is where every true pledge of allegiance has always lived. So yeah, I personally think this hat is fantastic, and all of you people who didn't like it, I think you don't know. You don't know. And my pins arrived. I'm gonna learn a few things about some of the history. And it achieves something that is very impressive when I think about it, which is this is just a beautiful 4th of July, a beautiful 250th 4th of July. Sláinte, guys, having a little nightcap here. We are doing an unboxing, and tonight it is the eve of 4th of July. This is Boston Scally. So yeah, I got one. It is the 250th anniversary cap because, of course, we are at the big 250 for America. Woo! Very exciting. I have my Americana hat. I think this video, it's intended to be a short video. We will see if that happens. Side note, confession, a lot of these very epic videos that I make start out with me under the delusion that this is going to be the short video, but I just get inspired to explore these caps and what they bring out, and you know, we wind up having a grand old time. Anyway, maybe this video will be different. Maybe it'll be no different. But, you know, real quick, this is the Americana. It is made in the US, and of course the hat is like this, but being a Gatsby, it absorbs pins wonderful. And when you have a hat called the Americana, well, it absorbs a lot of great pins that represent Americana, American folklore, mythology. It's pretty exciting. Just love it all. I got the king there. Kind of ironic, isn't it? Since it's No King's Day, the real No King's Day tomorrow. And then we have these here. Look at this. Originally, it was just going to be Bill the Butcher, but man, how could I not? This is the Americana, which is by scallywags.com. You should totally support them. Small, plucky, scrappy, made in America company. So they kind of trounce everybody else. But I have to give props to this company. Many of us wouldn't be here if it weren't for them. So I've always nothing but respect. And yeah, it's easy to paint a target on the big guy, on the big successful one. And everyone can do that. We're all welcome to, right? They can handle it. I think it is important to support Made in America. But as I said in my previous video for the Americana, which this is maybe kind of a companion video too. So this hat, I did not think this was going to be in my destiny. I'm so thrilled, and so much so that I wanted to film this little, you know, nightcap late at night to open this, because of course I'm going to be wearing this tomorrow. So this video needs to happen right now. I'll keep talking, but we got to open this. I am so curious to see. And I just want to say thank you to Boston Scally for figuring this out. We kind of like had a little back and forth collaboration there, and I can't believe they were able to figure out what happened to this cap here. And now I have it. So I'm being very careful I don't want to, you know, cut anything here because that would be tragic. Now, I didn't get the pins. As we all know, the pins sold out at like, I think 2 minutes past the hour when everything went on sale. I've never seen anything like this. Yeah, I don't know how that happened. And I mean, if you waited like maybe 15 minutes past the hour, you were done for, or even less. I don't know. Anyways, we're here. I'm so excited. And I think if nothing else, I should be making this video sharing my experience with it based on what really gets me thrilled and inspired by the design of this when I saw it, because I felt like a lot of people, they saw it and they went, what? That's not what I was thinking about. And they, you know, in all fairness, last year's was a tough act to follow. I mean, that is pretty quintessential 4th of July. Like right down to I love that the bill has the stars and this doesn't. Like, it's such a cool touch there. I love this hat. It just feels, of course, it's got that 4th of July festivity to it, but it almost feels like the quilt work that your grandma made for you. I love it. And this, I think, is the brilliant part. Like, that is the original part. This could have totally been something, I don't know what, but I thought that was really cool. It just feels like, you know, Grandma found this cloth and she thought you'd really like to have it. And you thought, why would I wear that? And then you just, you're like, oh my God, Grandma was right, you know? So anyway, all right. Hey, I just saw the fireworks tonight. That was pretty spectacular. Oh. All right, guys, this is exciting. It's right there. Okay. I am getting chills just looking at this hat. And let me tell you why. Because the color scheme. Now, people saw this and they go, hey, and everyone formed an opinion. And I just kept going, no, that's not what it is. Like, there's more to this. Don't you see what they're doing? And this is what I mean by the sophistication of the design. Like, I saw other people make some hats and they didn't do the assignment. This one not only got it, but I felt like they did it in the most elegant way. There are other hats I like for different reasons. It's not necessarily about the elegance, though, on those. But this one is. And that's why I really wanted it. And I'm so excited to own it. So I have to show you this step by step because this is so exciting. I have taken this out, the paper, and look at that. Now, maybe you're watching this if you don't know, but if you're watching this, you did see this hat likely. And maybe you scratched your head and you weren't sure. But I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about what I love about this cap, why it does the assignment. And because it's a Ghost in the Gaslight unboxing, I'm going to learn a few things about some of the history that spawned this design. All right, let's take this out. Oh, man. I am loving this. I love this material. This is going to be a nice waterproof material. This is one of their summer caps. Wow. You know, you guys know I love pins. I mean, I will totally collect the pins and everything, but I don't need the pins for the, oh yeah. So I've just taken the cardboard out, which comes in all these caps to keep them their shape and everything. And then we get to see this. Boy, the inside, this is gorgeous. I'm gonna have to do probably a little close up to accentuate this beautiful moment. But yeah, I love all of this. We've got the eagle on top. We've got these two flags. And I just love the artwork on here. I hope it wasn't AI. But nevertheless, just love it. We got the Liberty Bell, we got the drums, and Boston Scally 250th anniversary. Man, Doesn't that give you chills? And I just love this aged, faded look inside. This is great. A beautiful, beautiful work, guys. Beautiful work. And they're like, exchanges are available up to 30 days from your date of purchase. Like, I'm gonna exchange this. And I already know. Oh, wow. And so this is a wonderful accent here too. We got these stars on the sides. Stars are a big deal for us, right? Yeah, this is just such a different cap. I think everyone was looking at what Boston Scally was going to do, and I think they threw a curveball that to me has a big payoff. And I've also enjoyed what they've been doing lately with the single panel patchwork. They were doing the 9 patches, but I think since the Scarecrow last year, which is another absolutely stunning cap, but they've started to lessen the number of patches. Okay, so the Americana comes off. Wow. All right, so I'm gonna put the hat on, and I'm not gonna curl the bill yet. I just wanna see how this fits. All right. Okay, cool. So this fits pretty good. There's a little looseness to it. I think that curling the bill, as First 508 has told us all to do, is gonna work pretty good on that. But right now, I just wanna bask in this design. This is just great. So I'm just experiencing this. Man, this hat feels nice and cool. So I'm going to bend this bill. Man, all of this, it's got this. Yeah, wow. It just feels nice and classy. I really like the way the bill is made too. And this is really cool. I didn't even check this, but I love the way that they incorporated red. And it's really interesting. The hat challenges, like typically on 4th of July, this would probably have to be white. But for the 250th, they got to do something a little differently. And it's okay because they understood the assignment, which is stuff to do with the 250th anniversary. All right, let's put this on. Okay, that's already feeling better. Yeah. You know, you get a little bit of the creases on there. Anyways, I'm loving this hat. Here, I'll maybe put my hair back a little. How can you not like this cap? Oh, man, I'm happy I get to wear this hat. So one of the things I want to talk about with this hat here is with the design, and it is so sophisticated that it could only come, in a sense, from a company that has pretty much been designing a new hat every week. But it's modeled after the blue and the buff, which were the colors of the Continental Army. It was a blue coat, like this color, this dark blue, and buff facings. Buff is a color. It's short for buffalo hide. And I don't mean bison, which you would think bison because it's America. And no, it's not. It's actually water buffalo, which has nothing to do with the States. But at the time, the hide of buffalo was imported and it was coming from Europe. Buff, the color, actually refers to water buffalo. And that uniform actually was late. It didn't come until well into the war because the French were making it. And they were finding, hey, this is pretty lucrative if they would be supplying weapons and uniforms. And that was kind of how they entered the war. And part of why Washington, like all generals who are brilliant, was also into the psychological warfare. And he also knew that for this new country, they needed to be respected and taken seriously, like all the other nations. So their soldiers needed to look the part. And so they needed those uniforms. But as far as I know, and I might be mistaken on this, you had, for the most part, it would be certain regiments that were decorated with these uniforms, with these coats. They kind of had a rabble look because they were farmers, they were frontiersmen, and they didn't have enough uniforms to go around. And it's kind of great I'm wearing this shirt because in the early part of the war, Washington actually wanted to give some kind of uniform, which a fun fact is that Washington originally did not want to do the blue and buff coats. He actually wanted to do what was called rifle dress. So the soldiers would have a hunting shirt, they'd have their round cap or their tricorn cap, and they would have their rifle and, you know, some basic leggings, and they would look like hunters and sharpshooters. Back then, maybe it has different connotations now, but at that time, that was going to be terrifying to the British soldiers because they would see these guys with their long rifles and look like they're part of the land, and they have their hunting shirts, and they would be sharpshooters. They would just assume they're sharpshooters, we don't want to mess with them, and that would really screw with a lot of them. This was kind of a savvy piece of the guerrilla tactics that Washington wanted to do. And, you know, for a few reasons, it didn't quite catch on. I'd say like two reasons is the French were actually manufacturing the uniforms. Washington needed his army to be presentable. Otherwise, they were just going to look like a bunch of schlubs, and he needed the world to take the Americans seriously. But it's a cool psychological trick, you know? Can you imagine if they just come out looking like what we would call hillbillies or something? We'd be like, oh my God, those people are crazy. France really wasn't necessarily going to represent us as full-throatedly as it was if, you know, we didn't look the part. Ironically, not everyone was wearing the blue and buff uniforms because it was a big army and they couldn't quite do it at scale. So you did have a kind of rabble or a ragtag look. I mean, you had farmers coming from all over, and you did, at the same time, you did have some that looked like they could stand toe-to-toe with any of the aristocratic mega armies of Europe. And Washington had them wearing the uniform. And interestingly, this was not just navy blue and buffalo. This was also meant to appeal to the Whig Party, which was in England. And the Whig Party, there were basically the two parties. There was the Tories and the Whigs, as I understand it. And the Whigs were arguing for parliamentary powers over monarchical powers, which is pretty close to us. And then the Tories were all about the kind of monarchy, the empire building. And there were a lot of people in the parliament, in the Whigs, who were arguing actually on our behalf. I don't know if you knew that, but there was kind of a split in parliament. You actually, while we're fighting the Revolutionary War, is actually like the other party is arguing on our behalf, which I thought was pretty cool. So there's also theories that maybe we were wearing this uniform to kind of show a little solidarity with that opposing party. So that right there, I think, is kind of some rich history. And I love that Boston Scally made a hat that makes you think. And I think it's just a striking cap. I like the kind of checkered look where you're able to celebrate both colors. It's a beautiful cap. Now, of course, I want to say Boston Scally, they scale their stuff, so these aren't made in the US. I have my Americana from Scallywags, so I'm very happy. And I want to repeat that, to me, the American endeavor is the entrepreneurial spirit. That's what sets us apart from a lot of places. America's an idea, and that was an entrepreneurial action to have that vision and get it out there. And I would say that Boston Scally, that's where they completed. And you got to respect the amount of thought that they had to shine a light on this part of history, which I think is just really, really great. All right, ladies and gents, this cap has been steamed, but now we're in this portion where I am steaming it. So here's a little disclaimer. Keep your hands and fingers away from the steaming nozzle at all times. Never point it at your face, and keep it well away from your eyes. Steam travels fast and it doesn't warn you first. Work in a well-ventilated area. Let the steamer heat up fully before use, and never leave it unattended while it's on. If you're trying this at home, take your time, be deliberate, and respect the tool. A beautifully shaped cap is not worth a trip to urgent care. Now, contrary to how it may look, I'm not a professional hatter. I'm just a guy who loves a great cap and has burned his fingers enough to know better. What I show in this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please use your own judgment and follow all manufacturer safety guidelines for your specific steamer. Stay safe out there. Okay, so I thought, you know, I was steaming this and I thought, hey, why don't we steam it here together? And I thought, you know, we could just continue some of this fun trivia here. And I think steaming is just so magical anyway, that you can just kind of hover the hat around it. One of the things I think that's really fun about steaming your hat is just kind of watching it transform as you wear it. Not like, you know, in a few minutes, but as you own the hat. And I think particularly with the Boston Scally single panels, they will become less and less boxy over time. And then before you know it, you have it hanging on your wall and it just feels like it's become part of your head. It starts to sink into the shape of your head, and it never gets old for me. And also, gotta love a leader who doesn't do it by salary. And Washington, he did the whole revolution and they didn't pay him. They didn't have to. They only paid him for like reimbursements, I believe, which is pretty cool. Isn't this nice? So I'm just going to, I'm going to kind of focus. I think I've gotten more or less the main creases out of the front here. Okay. I'm loving how this front is looking. So now that this is on, as many of you know, we basically just get to let the hat kind of take the shape it's going to take. And yeah, this is, yeah, I'm just loving the checkered look here. So yeah, I personally think this hat is fantastic, and all of you people who didn't like it, I think you don't know. In a natural way, I think there's a harmoniousness to the colors, and I love the nod to the uniforms for the Continental Army. I think it's stellar. It's a great hat, and of course, it's going to keep fitting to my head. It already is, which is pretty awesome. Just, yeah, it's a great hat. Happy 250th, guys. Maybe we'll do a ghost story or two. And one thing I want to say is 250th is a whole year. It's not like the 250th is one day and that's tomorrow. It's a whole year. So that means up until now to next 4th of July, the next 250 years begins. Well, this is about day 6 owning this. Compliments, it's just a very interesting look to it. I find that this type of hat, the Scally cap, always turns some heads. You just kind of stand out in a crowd if that's what you want, but it just shows something a little more refined than the baseball cap. I think we can all agree. But then you've got this design, this fabric, because it's that kind of water repellent type fabric, it's going to have a kind of usually cleanly look to it. So it just gives this feel of being put together. I can't explain it. And my pins arrived, which I am so excited to go over. I've got this lapel pin from Mount Vernon, the official 250th anniversary pin. We've got Washington and his men crossing the Delaware. It's pretty detailed, wonderful tones on it. You should absolutely get yourself one. And then there's this other 250th special pin. Now this is a folded standard and it's actual cloth. That's actually a mini flag there. That is pretty awesome. I don't know if it's going to pick up all the definition on that, but yeah, pretty excited. And we get to, well, we have to go there with these two. I mean, that's what you're here for anyway. These are the 13 folds. They can vary sometimes, but these are more or less them. The first fold is for life itself, the most fundamental promise this nation made when it dared to exist. The second fold speaks of a faith in something beyond the mortal, that the sacrifices made were not made in vain, but echo into eternity. The third fold is for the veterans, those who gave their lives and some who gave all of them so that the rest of us might live in the peace they purchased. The fourth fold reminds us of our own frailty, that we are a people who have always turned in our hardest hours towards something greater than ourselves. The fifth fold is for the country, not a perfect country, but ours, and for the stubborn, abiding love that asks it to be better while refusing to abandon it. The sixth fold is for the heart, because that is where every true pledge of allegiance has always lived, long before the words were ever written down. The seventh fold honors the men and women in uniform, those who stood between this flag and the forces that would have brought it down. The eighth fold is for those who walked into the valley and did not come back, who gave the last full measure so that the rest of us could stand here in the light. The ninth fold honors the women of this nation, those who held families together through wars, through loss, through long silences, and who shaped the character of America as surely as any general ever did. The 10th fold is for the fathers, those who watched their children march away and trusted that the cause was worth the cost. The 11th fold reaches back to ancient faith, to the covenant traditions that shaped the moral imagination of this nation's founders before a single word of the Constitution was written. The 12th fold is for eternity itself, a reminder that what we fold here today will outlast every one of us. The 13th and final fold brings the stars to the surface and hides the stripes from view, and in that quiet gesture, something true is said. The struggles are folded away. The wounds are folded away. What remains facing upward are the stars. What remains is the light. And when that last fold is made, the flag has become a triangle, and not by accident. That shape echoes the tricorn hat worn by the soldiers of the Continental Army. Those men who crossed frozen rivers and marched through snow without shoes and stayed when every reasonable instinct told them to go home. The flag began as their flag. It flew over their impossible war, and now, folded and tucked into that ancient triangular shape, it carries their silhouette still, as if to say that every time we honor this flag, we are also quietly honoring them. The men in the boats, the men at Valley Forge, the men who chose victory over death on a Christmas night when the odds said neither was coming. And that's 13 folds. It's a great hat. Happy 250th, guys. It was Christmas night 1776, and the American Revolution was nearly dead. After retreating through New Jersey, Washington's officers were questioning his ability to lead, and his soldiers were short on food, supplies, and clothing. Some of them had no shoes. The enlistments of most of his men were set to expire with the new year. Washington understood that if he did not act, there would be no army left to lead. He chose the challenge and countersigned for that night's mission: victory or death. There was no middle ground left. What carried those men was not glory, it was grit. Colonel John Glover's Marblehead Regiment, New Englanders all, filled with experienced seamen in short blue jackets and tarred pants, guided the boats through the ice-choked river. They brought with them 18 cannons, some weighing as much as 1,750 pounds, dragged across a freezing river in the middle of a howling nor'easter. Washington had planned 3 simultaneous crossings that night. The storm foiled 2 of them, forcing the other columns to turn back. Only the main army, with Washington at its head, made the crossing. He pressed on anyway, into the dark, into the night, into the unknown. The victory at Trenton the next morning is not large by the measure of history, but its meaning was enormous. The Committee of Secret Correspondence wrote afterward, "We hope this blow will be followed by others." And it was. What began that Christmas night became what historians call the 10 crucial days, a stretch of audacity that kept the revolution alive long enough to win. Crossing the Delaware on Christmas night is a moment frozen in time, in our blood. This is the icon that should always give you chills, for it is the moment where a nation decides, in her darkest hour, if she is worth saving. I got to go experience Passover several times. Like, I skew Christian, but I got to go and be a part of Passover. And one of the things that's really great is they pass that little literature along, and then each one has to kind of read what was happening. And so they learn what the ancestors were dealing with so that they could all be there now. That's something I lament about Christmas and Halloween and 4th of July, it's usually about, let's go have a party. We don't know why. We just know this one is different aesthetically than that one. And I think it would be great if, when people celebrated 4th of July, there was an understanding that you should learn a little bit about what went into all this. Because a lot did go into this. And it is a lot to be grateful for. And I also think it's the kind of history that if you learn it, you will actually find you have a different way of looking at the problems you face now in the modern world. I think that for the most part, only good can come of studying that history. I think it's crucial. I think it's important. It makes no sense to just roll your eyes when people bring up the history. Why not just like keep learning cool bits of trivia? And when someone asks you why you're wearing that hat, like, you know, if I'm out and about and I'm wearing this and not 4th of July and someone asks me, I can go, because it's awesome. Did you know that they were taking such a risk in this army that when they won, Washington gave a speech in 1783 to his troops, and he said, "It's a miracle we won. We weren't supposed to win this." Their own general knew they weren't supposed to win this, and he led them anyway. So everyone's got their own gripe about any company. Anyone's got their own gripe about Boston Scally. But here, whatever my gripes have been, they absolutely deserve my accolades on this. Completely deserved. And I really have to take my hat off to Boston Scally for doing something different. I don't think anyone expected this kind of hat. And I don't think it was just, I think as a hat collector, a Scally cap collector, a member of this awesome Scally cap community, this hat was not like anything that people were expecting, you know? I think people thought, oh, it's gonna be all these colors, or it's gonna be some kind of crazy combination. And I thought this was absolutely stellar because of the history in it. And I mean, just, you got these little touches of the stars. And I've got this little, this wonderful flag here, which is actually designed by Strakowski, but it's a great, great flag. Pretty awesome. And, you know, knowing me, if the pin is right, it's going to find its way on here. But yeah, what a great hat. And Boston Scally, I think, is like, whatever they're doing, they are scaling in a way that I think rewards the excitement of a culture. And people come into it at different levels, different times. But the core is that they make these fun caps. And I love that they made this hat and it puts some serious thought into it. They can make their Jaws cap, they can make their Popeye cap, but they really took this seriously. It's 250 years. That is history. They're making a cap about this country that was made by an idea, and it was won by a war of independence that was fought by all these men from all these different walks of life who were willing to die for that. And a lot of them didn't want to do it, and Washington had to be a tyrant sometimes and force them into this war when a lot of them, they wanted to leave or desert, and they, you know, their shoes were destroyed. They had to go on bare feet. They had to deal with the freezing cold and deal with frostbite and lose toes and all of this stuff. That deserves a lot of respect, right? And then if we think of that moment when they finally do get their uniform and they're legitimized, what did that mean? What was that moment? Can you imagine? Like, that's got to be such a boost of morale. It's kind of like these days with these football teams, and they get a new uniform because these people know the science. It's not just that you can sell more jerseys or whatever, but the team gets really thrilled if they've got this new great uniform. That's the same thing that happens in war with armies. That can be a turning point. It's psychological. And I go to that moment where they're fighting, they've been promised all this stuff, nothing seems to happen, but anything is better than living under a monarch. They would rather just go to war and die, you know, lose limbs, or just deal with the horrors of war than go back to maybe a slightly more convenient but enslaved life. And nothing's going right, and then maybe some battles are won, some are tied, everything. But then about halfway into the war, okay, that was frustrating. I was on this roll and then I got this notification that the storage was full. God damn it. Hate that. Anyways, so that moment where an army of losers, everymen, who have families, who have a completely uncertain, precarious future, and are fighting this war that I'm sure many of them had, at some time or another, stopped believing in, or maybe came back around, or were just like at their wits' end. They get these uniforms, and it's just a different feeling. That's the moment. That's why this is good value. Plus, it just looks great, effortlessly cool, and it achieves something that is very impressive when I think about it, which is, this looks like a hat the Continental Army might have worn. And it totally fits as a modern piece of fashion too. I mean, this is one of their best designs. I don't know if I can give an award of the best cap. I don't have them all, but I do know there's maybe 3 awards which I've bestowed, which is that I've gotten 3. One is still to come, and that's going to be a while back because they're on back order. But I would say those are the important awards. What did you want to actually go and buy? And the Americana, this one, and the Hancock, which, you know, one day the Hancock will come. But, you know, I think those are just fantastic caps. But I think Boston Scally, to me, really scores on originality. And I think it's the cap that made me think the most. And I really appreciate the way that all came together in a design. You don't always get to see that. And what a win for the 250th anniversary. I gotta say that. It's worth gushing over. It's worth exploring. This is good value in my opinion. Anyway, hope you learned something. Yeah. This is a gift. The places this will always take me, it's a gift. And I guess in some ways, you know, I'm making this video so I can share that. It's not to say, hey, go get this hat. I know it's like, it's gone or whatever. But hey, we all get some kind of value from wearing these. And I think it's great having these videos where we can all kind of share in that. Because I guess what my hope is that my experience with this is now yours. That's all I'm doing. All right, well, I'll shut up now. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. All kinds of stuff goes on here, and there's only going to be more. But I do love the joy of collecting hats, like as well as making the artwork and reading you my favorite ghost stories. I also make my own ghost stories, writing a novel right now in that vein too, which is pretty fun. I'd love to have you here. Subscribe, leave comments. I love our conversations. So yeah, until next time, stay haunted, my friends.